Are you looking to master your pop track in the style of Ariana Grande, Tate McRae, Taylor Swift, and Charlie Puth? We've come to the right place. In this video, I'm going to break down 2 different tracks and how to master them to get that super upfront, full, loud sounding pop master. It really is quite unique. I understand the genre of pop changes, every so often, every few years, it kind of shifts and develops. But I've got 2 tracks I feel like are pretty emblematic of the modern pop era. I have a sort of darker, almost trap, hip hop inspired pop track, and I have a more of an upbeat pop track with a male vocalist. I think those represent the pop genre pretty well. So I'm going to break down how to master both those tracks. If you're struggling to master your tracks, you can go ahead and click the link down below and get some help with your master, or you can go ahead and work with me if you're interested in improving your mixes and masters in the home studio. Anyways, let's jump into the session. I'm going to break down how I would exactly master these tracks, what plugins I'm using, what settings to use, and how to get that upfront sound. All right, I'm in the session now. We're going to start with this track. This is a female vocalist, more darker track that we've been hearing. I'm just going to play through some of it so you get an idea of what we're dealing with here.
Oh, what it means to me, babe. When you get me, you get me, you get me feeling right.
Okay, so first off, this track is pretty quiet to begin with. That's good. I don't need it to be super loud when it comes in for mastering. What I really want to start with is kind of getting the track up to volume, thinking about things EQ wise. How do I want to color this track? How can I add energy to it? So the first thing I'm going to do is just use a stock EQ from Reaper, play a little bit of the track and see where this track can be enhanced. So for the track style, I felt like it could be a little brighter, so I added a little boost in the top end. I usually don't like taking out mid-range, but there was a lot in like that 8-900. And for a pop track, you don't really need that information. For a rock track, yes, I don't want to remove any of that mid-range because that's going to have so much information. But this is a lot of sub. This is a lot of, top end, hi-hats and stuff. That mid-range is not really as important for the pop genre. You still want it there, but for something like rock, which I've gone over how to mix before, metalcore, you need those low mids. But for pop, it's a little different approach. I also added a little bit of sub information at 50, just a little shelf to give that 808 hit a little more oomph. The key is really not to overdo these EQ changes, but just subtly enhance the life of the track. I'm about to A-B this here. It just feels like it's popping out of the speakers a little more. Yes, it's a little louder, but we're in the mastering stage. It's okay to add a little bit of volume. The next thing I would do is this track actually looks pretty dynamic, so I might add a little bit of SSL compression just to give it that compressed feeling that I like. I know it's already pretty compressed, but we're also going to run it through a limiter, so it's going to get compressed eventually. I might as well add a little subtle compression to it before I ran it through the limiter. So what I'm going to do is I should have a preset here that I like going on. This one's a mastering preset. I might use the mix knob for it then. I'm going to dial back the attack though. Okay, so we've added 2 plugins. This is the changes. Not bad. Before I have this hit a limiter, I want to do a little bit of enhancing. So I'm going to bring in the virtual mix rack here. And all I'm going to use is, so I'm just going to use the virtual mix rack to add just a tiny bit of analog flavor. And I also love their custom series EQ, especially this lift one. Just is going to add a little bit of brightness and sub information. So that's everything we've enhanced to the track. Obviously it's going to be louder, but it's okay. The master is going to eventually be super loud. That's where we bring in, I'm going to bring in L1, do a little bit of light limiting, and then we're going to come in with an FGX2. I really like to use combinations of limiters and compressors. I'm going to do this very subtly here. This is a little slower track, so I'm okay with leaving the release at a little slower timing so it doesn't have to clamp on the transients so quickly. What I'm also going to do now is go to the FGX2. which is one of my favorite limiter plugins by Slate. This thing is absolute magic. Before that, really quick, actually, I'm also going to add some stereo enhancement to the entire track. So let's go KHS stereo. I'm gonna throw that on before this limiter, add 10% width. So let's A/B real quick. We're getting a lot closer now. I'm gonna back off this limiter though a little bit. Now let's go to the FGX2. There's a lot of options in the FGX2. What I'm gonna do is set my ceiling. It's always good to set your ceiling at like -0.4 or 5, because when your audio file finally goes to MP3 format, you're gonna lose some of that fidelity and you don't want to have the file clip in and of itself. So leave a little bit of a ceiling. You don't have to max it out at 0. But I am gonna add some gain here. There's also some other additional options. I want this to really be tight. So I really want the mix to feel tight. For me, I'm going to go into LUFS land. I want to kind of land around -8, -7 LUFS. For RMS, like -6. So that's really starting to slam. You can add a little bit of low punch and detail as well. That's kind of the loudest part of the track. Let's go to a part where the vocalist is singing more.
Say the words 'cause you know what it means to me, babe.
What I'm going to do real quick here is add a multi-band compressor before that limiter and dial in some of these sub-information frequencies so it doesn't get too out of hand.
Say the words 'cause you know what it means to me, babe. When you get me, you say the words 'cause you know what it means to me, babe. When you get me, you get me, you get me. Feeling right.
All I want to happen is I don't want the sub frequencies to get out of hand in a certain part of the track, so I'm just using the multiband to kind of reel it in. Now let's finish off the loudness portion of this master.
Say the words 'cause you know what it means to me, babe.
I'm gonna throw my VU meter on just to check and make sure it's where it should be at RMS wise.
Say the words 'cause you know what it means to me, babe. When you get me, you get me.
Yep, that's about where it should be. I'm having some extra noise. I'm going to turn off. Sometimes the SSL compressor has some extra noise. Okay.
Say the words 'cause you know what it means to me, babe. When you get me, you get me.
The FGX2 also lets you volume match, I believe. So I can turn the volume. Let's see. Okay, so that master is sounding pretty good. Let me bypass everything here. That's kind of volume match, so to speak. Now let's turn on all the plugins. Subtly dial in that final gain amount on the FGX. So that track is really loud up front, but still has some of the dynamics. I added some lows, some highs, and then some overall stereo width just to make the track really pop out of the speakers. Now let's move on to the male lead vocal track and see what we can do with this one. This is definitely a different style, so I want to see how we can maximize this track as best as possible. So let's take a quick listen through this one. So I can't really go back and decide and affect the mix. So what really stands out to me in this master is it's got a lot of good energy, but the vocal is really kind of dark and buried. So we're going to need to use some top end to kind of bring that out. That's why I always like to start with EQ. So let's look at a fresh air plugin. I want to really bring out some top in this entire mix. That made a huge difference right off the bat. I feel like I can hear way more of the vocal. Let's bring in some EQ now. Reaper stock EQ. Let's see if we can make 2 or 3 changes that really help enhance this track. Another tip when you're mastering is to go to the loudest section, usually the final chorus. That gives you the best idea of what you're dealing with the track. And then you can match your levels appropriately, because if you limit like the chorus in the middle of the song and the last chorus is louder, well, you're going to then overcook your track because you're going to have it too loud in the last chorus. So make sure you're going to that last chorus. It's kind of the best representation of your track. I'm hearing something weird in this mid-range. Oh man, that helped my ears a lot, just making that one little change. The track was missing some ultra lows too. I'm gonna take a similar approach. Let's add a little bit of stereo width to this. I'm gonna use the Reaper one. See if I can find it here. Stereo enhancer, and it gives you a crossover frequency. I really want to give a lot of this track some additional stereo width. I like what that did with the stereo width. Let's come in with FGX2. Let's add some loudness to it. I'm going to mess with some of their other settings here. So there's actually some presets. Let's look at a punchy preset. I want to add some punch to this track. So this is the punchy preset. It's going to start to get loud. Go to the intro, make sure that's sounding right. Every time emotion can push away. So I like what I did cutting out the mid-range, but this track needs some warmth now because I cut out that mid-range, which was kind of a honky frequency, but I want to add like just some thickness to this. So let's use the thickness on the Revival by Slate. Yeah, that added something that wasn't there. Let's compare it to our other track to see if they're comparable masters and if they could go side by side on a streaming service. This one. This one's even louder and more upfront. So that maybe tells me I need to go back to my other master and make it a little louder, but this one's really coming together. Oh, I need to adjust the ceiling, that's why. Let's check the VU meter. Sitting around -8, -9, occasionally hitting -6. That's perfect. I have a video explaining why you shouldn't be mastering a -14 LEFS and why I master even louder. You can check out that video there if you want more information on that. Okay, so no master. And mastered. Wider, brighter, there's just more energy in the track and some nice punch with the FGX. So that's how I go about mastering pop tracks. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below. If you'd like to work with me on a track, you can go ahead and check out the website description there, and you can go ahead and contact me and we can get your track to where you need it to be. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe to the channel. I have a ton of other videos on mixing and mastering tracks in your home studio. You want to check those out as well. And anyways, I'll see you guys next time.